Hi,
There we
everybody.
go.
Welcome to the Tuned and Strong podcast, where we talk about all things related to fitness and music.
Mhm.
Sorta. I am Angela from Music Strong, and joining me is my co host.
I am Dr. Jen Cavus of Tuned and Tone Performance. And today we're going to talk a little bit about different exercise personality types, I think is kind of what we landed on here. This is a follow-up from our nutrition talk from last week. And we're going to actually keep running with this, so stay tuned for follow-ups.
Part three, we are going to delve a little bit more into this book called No Sweat: How the Simple Science of Motivation Can Bring You a Lifetime of Success. To be fully transparent, I was reading it on audiobook through the library when we were doing our last recording last week, and unfortunately it got returned before I could finish it, and somebody had a hold, so I haven't been able to read it, and I just got it in the mail, and I've forgotten a lot because it's not at the top of my brain, so I haven't had a chance to go through it. So I promise I will read the entire book by next week, and we'll be good to go.
But in the meantime, we're going to talk about different personality types we run into and the different types of exercise. What do we want to call that? Formats or
Types
some?
of lifters, of exercise programs.
Yeah, stuff like that we've really seen, and just kind of how that works for a lot of people. So even just looking at the gym where I coach, Big Ben Strength and Conditioning in Tallahassee. We have three different coaches, coaches, three different coaches, and we all have very different approaches to lifting, which definitely affects how we program and the type of lifters that we tend to work better with. And that's just lifting alone. That doesn't include things like we got runners in the gym who very much have their own personality. We have yoga people who also have their own personality, that kind of stuff. But I mean, just for lifters alone, like we've got our head coach is very much an Olympic weightlifter. He's very calm, chill, doesn't get too worked up too often, unless it's a very specific intention. And that's the kind of person that he kind of likes to coach. And all of our weightlifters are like that. If they're doing anything that is not weightlifting and that requires a little bit more throw yourself against the wall, we're not even against the wall, but throw yourself fully into it. I have a hard time getting them to actually do that, let me tell you. It's a
Yeah.
sled, not a barbell.
Mm-hmm. It's not for
Uh,
everyone.
no. And I mean, I I like the weightlifting movements and I like the personalities that come along with them. I also know I personally would be very bored doing just a weightlifting approach. You know?
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm not a bodybuilder, but I love the bodybuilding sets because it gives you structure. Today's arm day, today's leg day one, leg day two, today is quad dominant, today's hip dominant day, today's chest day, today whatever. And we don't want to get into the science of why that's not completely accurate and all that, but it gives you something to do every day. And I remember when I was first getting into that, and I was coming out of that, and I hired a coach who was sane instead of the figure coach I had who was insane. And she was like, "No, you're doing 3 workouts a week." I went, "What? I'm not lifting 6 days a week and cardio for 45 minutes every afternoon, and one actually no rest days?" And she went, "No, that's why no,
Yeah.
you get 3." And I was like my brain didn't know what to do with that. So I mean, I really, and then I
Mhm.
got into it. And like I really liked how that worked, and I got into a 4-day split. But I really like having like a something to do every day, or
Yeah.
6 days a week, or 5 days a week, or whatever, as
Right.
opposed to just lifting 3 days a week
Right.
and maybe some light stuff in between. I
Yeah.
program that for a lot of my clients because they like that. I
Yes.
don't like it.
Right.
It's not my style.
Right.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. But you have tried enough to know that. And
Mhm.
same thing with like, oh, I totally lost that thought. Oh my God, it just poof,
We went from six
gone.
days a week to 3 days a week to like light stuff with in between.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gone.
But like I said, you tried enough to
Hmm.
know where you belong, to know what works well for you. That's kind of how that goes. I've tried not the full-on bodybuilding, but I've tried a more, let's call it a powerlifting approach. Let's call it, so we don't get sued, a functional fitness
Quote
approach.
unquote.
Uh-huh, uh-huh. Yeah, the
Is that
company,
is that a is that trademarked or something?
no, the company that owns the majority of the gyms who use that term doesn't like it when people reference them directly.
Really? Because
It most of the time you can get away with it, but sometimes they get mad.
okay.
So, yeah, so we're going to call that functional fitness, and that worked for me for a little bit, but only for a little bit.
Yeah.
I was a runner for a while, um, which we'll delve into more later because that there's a success or lack of success story there.
Oh, I've always hated running. Never been successful at it.
Yeah.
Ever.
And I mean, there's a reason I'm not a runner anymore. And what I ended up landing on was, the strongman type stuff. That's what really works for me. I went from cardio every day to the 5 day a week
Hmm.
functional approach to, it was really a 5 day a week, but it was more hybrid powerlifting bodybuilding.
Yeah.
And now it's like I've got 4 training days a week, and in between, I'm doing lots of resting and recovery movements and activities. And I'm
Hmm.
getting it done, and I feel better.
Yeah, and you know something? There's a guitarist that I was talking to a while back who said that he had a trainer who showed him the 300 workout, the workout from the movie 300, and it's just an insane amount of volume. And this goes well with the guy's personality because he's like an extremist and likes
Yeah,
to do tons of stuff. Here's the thing: that's not meant to be done for years.
right.
The body is not meant for that kind of thing because you have to train in different planes of motion. You have to train in different volumes. There's
Yeah,
deload weeks. If you're wondering why you're tired all the time, it might be because you are overworking. I'm not to say most musicians aren't that way, but I mean there are a lot of musicians that are kind of like that is my thing, and I certainly got into that. When I was overtraining,
hmm,
you're constantly tired. You don't know that you're just not recovered. You're just tired. You have no energy.
right.
You want to eat all the time because you're tired. No
Hmm,
amount of water fixes it. No amount of caffeine fixes it. No amount of sleep fixes it. It's just you are overtraining. So
hmm.
there are tons of great workouts that are high intensity or that are um, they're doable for a short amount of time.
Yeah,
Yes, you can repeat them, but they're
hmm,
not meant to be done on loop for years.
right.
The body has to be able to recover. Like the joints have to, you can only put joints under a certain amount of stress before they need a different amount of stress to
Right.
adapt and recover. Same with
Yes.
muscles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's I mean, we're gonna do a little bit of it's gonna sound like sales here, but that's part of why it's so important to have a knowledgeable coach. And I know we've talked about this before too. It's like I've got a couple people right now who are like up here. I mean, intensity, high energy, need more volume people.
Right.
Um, and they need a much different approach than we've got some people who are. I've got one woman right now that I only want her to come in 2 days a week. That's it. That's it. 2 days a week. It's going to be a lot of pump movement, so a lot of bodybuilding, a lot of that kind of stuff, big sets, light weights, high reps. And maybe once a week, we're going to go heavy on um, I want to not call it a safe implement. It's not very load bearing on the spine.
Yeah.
It's not going to hurt her. Um, but those two people, the high intensity, high energy, extra volume person and the please only come in 2 days a week person who doesn't need a lot of intensity. That's two very different approaches. And if you're not sure where you are as a person, as a lifter, as an exerciser, somebody who knows what they're doing might be a much better intro to that for you. You know?
Yeah. It kind of goes along with what we were talking about last week with nutrition and diets. And, we're just talking about that there's not one exercise program that fits everyone. There's not one music teacher that fits every student. There
Right.
is not one diet approach that works for everybody.
Right.
Do you want to lose fat? And I'm not even going to say weight. I want to say fat because weight has a whole lot else to do with it. If you want to lose fat, here's how you do it. You have to create a deficit. And this is not groundbreaking. You've heard this, but you have to have less calories being consumed than are being expended. You can do that about a bajillion different ways. Some people love keto, where they restrict some people love where they restrict certain food groups. Some people love where they restrict certain things. Some people hate restrictions and they would much rather do like more intermittent fasting where they're restricting time. Some people would much rather, there's all these different ways to do it, right? So what I tell my clients is like, look, we got to find out what your groove is. And once you hit it, you'll know it because you're like, oh, I like this. I can do this. Yeah, I feel good on this. Some people work better on higher fat diets. Some people work better on higher carb diets. Some people work better eating once or twice a day. Some people work better nibbling and having smaller meals. They are all, for the most part, there's some that are not, but by and large, they're all valid. They all trick you, so to speak, into creating a caloric deficit. You just have to find the right one that works for you. That might be wrong, but that's what I have found.
I'm not going to disagree with you. I'm not going to disagree with you on that. Yeah, it's that. I made that face because I know people are going to argue. The second
let's get them talking.
Second the word calorie comes up, people go, we're very, very much extreme, right? There's people who are here. They're like, it's only about calories, or it's not about calories at all. And I'm sitting here like,
it's all about the type of certain foods you eat. Can you get fat on too much broccoli? Technically, yeah.
Good. It'd be very difficult.
Oh my gosh.
It's like, can you die from drinking too much coffee? Technically, probably. In like one go instead of over time, maybe.
Right.
But it'd be difficult.
You die from drinking too much water. There's too much. It's too much of a good thing.
Yeah.
But I know that was simplistic.
No, it's really just about that, like the number of arguments I have seen and or sat through about calories. It just is like, it's nails on a chalkboard to my soul.
That's why it's one of those, like, I don't get into writing meal plans per se for my clients. I will give them all day long. I will give them recommendations. I will tell them things they need to know. I will guide them into figuring out their own macros. And if they want some suggestions, like this is what my breakfast or lunch might look like.
Right.
Cool. I'm not writing out a meal plan for you because number one, I'm not a registered dietitian. I am not any of that. And in Tennessee, that's a no-go. Florida's got something a little different right now, I think. But
we just deregulated nutrition advice from non-dietitians, but we still have to be like, yes, I offer nutrition coaching, but I'm pretty specific that it's coaching, it's not medical. If there's medical anything, that always supersedes anything I do, really. Like, you got a medical order, that comes first, and I need to know that because I can work with that. But I'm never going to contradict it. I'm never going to contradict that. When people are too different and they're too touchy. That same thing with, like, if you told me to restrict my saturated fats, I'm going to get sick. I literally, both my cholesterols are actually dangerously low. So if I'm not consuming, I get sick.
There you go. And I had a point where if I had any fat at all, I'd have a gallbladder attack, which is why I don't have one anymore. And I'm fine. But and I fought it for a while. By the way, if anybody's thinking about getting your gallbladder taken out and you fight it, just do it. I'm telling you. I can't speak for you, but I can tell you I fought it for a year. I had horrible pains. I felt like someone was shoving a 2x4 through my body. I would be fasted for 10 hours, no food, and suddenly I get an attack out of nowhere. Why? There was nothing in my body. I mean, it just, and I thought, I can change this with diet and exercise. No, I couldn't. If you are a stone producer, you will be a stone and sludge producer. And apparently my gallbladder was a stone and sludge producer. So now it's gone and I have no problems. Zero. It's great. Just FYI. But I mean, it took forever to figure that out.
Mhm.
And I always wondered, do I feel better on higher fat or higher carbs? And honestly, I mean, I thought I did really well on higher fat for a while, and then I went back to higher carbs, and I think I feel better. I think on a little higher carbohydrates than fat, but it's more. It's not a drastic difference between the two for me.
Mhm.
Some people do.
Yeah.
That's
Mm.
fine.
But
You exactly.
I have very different medical needs than a lot of people. Like,
Hmm.
you know.
Yeah,
So
but
so
like going back to exercise though,
yes. Yeah.
there's and they're not being one size fits all. There's also different times in life where certain things are more appropriate. So like I've said this a bajillion times, I'm coming out of being all these injuries, finally got rid of the hamstring tendinosis. And have I been out on the bike? No, because it's February and it's friggin' cold. We had like an ice storm, and But
Mhm.
and also I'm just gonna say excuses. I've not ridden inside because, well, one, I have cats and they would get curious and get, that's no good. Number two, it's boring as crap. And yes, I know we have Zwift and we have all those things, but I just, in the house there's no breeze, there's no scenery, there's no, the mental challenges don't stop. And that's what getting into this book does,
Yeah.
because it's not, it becomes a chore and something I need to do instead of something I enjoy. And I don't want to take something I love and make it into something I have to do. Same
Yes.
like what you can do with music.
Yeah. Yeah. Mhm.
And
Mhm.
it is okay to say, okay, you know what? I'm not doing cardio this way because I love it one way. I don't love it the other way.
Right.
That's okay.
Right. I'm not going to try to take a runner and turn them into a power lifter unless that's what they want to do and they want to try and it turns out that's where they wanted to be the whole time. But it's much in the same way, like I assume that you can do this, but I think we all can, musicians. You look at a person and you pretty much know what instrument they play.
That's so true.
Pretty much know what instrument they play. We've got personality type that,
Oh, the stereotypes are true.
and I mean, it sounds bad, right? It sounds like, oh, you can just stereotype it. Like, it's that I think the instruments call to different people, and that's just what resonates with us. I mean, clarinetists are all, like slightly snarky, um, very dry for the most part. I've met some colorful clarinetists. There are definitely colorful
There
clarinetists,
are
but I've met
some.
more
I know a couple.
snarky, very dry. We tend to be more often dark-haired, even like getting into that. There are some light-haired clarinetists. I'm not going to say they don't exist.
I know
It's just
one.
that there tend to be more. So like that sort of stuff. And you can do the same thing with the lifters, I can see a power lifter. And when a power lifter tries to do something that isn't powerlifting, it usually doesn't end very well for them. They'll either get bored or just like the number of powerlifters who have tried to go into strongman, there's a couple who've been successful, but I feel like they're the exception rather than the rule. I feel like there's a lot of them who tried to go into strongman and it just didn't work, for whatever reason. Um, so yeah, that whole there. I don't know that I've really met anybody that I didn't think that there was a right fit for them out there in terms of activity, you know? And it's very rare similarly that I find somebody that I don't think, okay, well, if you were going to play an instrument, this is where you should go because you're going to be more successful here. I've gotten a couple people who they come in students and they're younger and like, oh, I want to play clarinet. I'm like, I'll teach you clarinet. You should flute, but also clarinet, because that's where you want to be. And if it gets to that point where you're no longer having fun, then we'll talk.
I've had that same talk with flute players. I'm like, you're not type
Yeah.
A enough, really. Now,
Yeah, and it's
coming from someone who's not overly type A, but I mean,
yeah.
eh,
It's
there's a type.
and for whatever reason it seems to tie into ability to play that instrument. It's like, I mean, I can play woodwinds, I think pretty well. You know, like, I think I'm a pretty good woodwind player, right? And single reeds are my jam, of course. But I played violin for, oh, how long did I play that thing? 4 years.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I ever got any better. You know,
It's not for
I
you.
was always last chair violin. It was awful. And the second I pick up the clarinet, I jump to the top. You know, it's like, oh, yeah, this makes sense.
It's your thing. It's your thing. Same with harp,
So,
though. I mean, I learned how to play harp, and I've rented a harp here and there. Funny story: the lady who taught me to play flute actually played harp, and now she doesn't play flute anymore. And I rented the harp from her. We had a very quick bit, and I was like, "Hey, I play flute because of you." She's like, "Cool. Which harp do you want?" Like, "Oh, okay, we have moved on." That's really funny.
all right.
I mean, she put that in her past, which is amazing because she was great. But
Yeah.
there are seasons in life for everything. But like, I
Yeah.
learned how to play harp in college, and I realized it's I felt like it was one of those things that was easy to learn and very difficult to get good at. And I was okay with that. I just wanted to mess around and be able to like know where the strings were and have fun. It was a beautiful instrument, and I love the sound it made and reverb, on my chest. It's just, and it wasn't flute, and it was a nice
Yeah.
break.
Yeah.
Same with piano. I didn't ever want to like play rock on and off. I just want to play songs I hear on the radio and have fun. And it's okay, And the exercise can be the same way. You don't have to. I had a friend of mine. I'm in this cycling, not cycling group, but a bunch of cycling friends. And I made a comment about, I felt like I had to go ride for exercise. And my friend said, should never be about that. Riding
Yeah.
should only be because you enjoy it. It should be about the fun and that you want to go. Don't make it about anything else. To be
Yeah.
fair, it is. I mean, you don't go out and ride 20 to 100 miles, 50
Right.
miles, 60 miles, whatever. You don't just do that for fun. Well, some people do. I don't. Some of it has to do with the exercise. Some of it has to do with the mental challenges, whatever. But I mean, that stuck with me. Like, and anytime I get out there and it's 20 degrees or 40 degrees, it feels like 20. And I feel like, man, I've got to get something in. I've got to blah, blah, blah. Because, well, part of it is that I miss the exercise. I miss being on a bike, but I will only take so much misery.
Yeah.
And his words come back. He's like, it shouldn't be about the exercise. If you're not enjoying it, stop.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't care what exercise you do. As long as you're having fun, it counts.
Yes. Yes. If it's something that you enjoy and you will keep showing up for,
Yeah.
and we'll get into a little bit more with that next time, but
Oh,
I mean,
yes.
like I tried to become a runner, I think I want to say like a distance runner.
Yeah.
Sprinting was never a problem, but a distance runner. I tried to do that, I want to say 3 or 4 times before I was finally successful.
Yeah.
And the one time I was successful, um, I started because I was with a friend, first off. That helped. So there was incentive for me to show up, you know. It wasn't crazy long. It was something that I could do and feel good about. Um, and when I started getting into the longer distances, it was I was enjoying being outside. I was enjoying getting fresh air. I was enjoying seeing what I could do, instead of like, I have to do this, Um,
Yeah.
and if you talk to the, serious distance runners, they get that runner's high and they keep showing up for that runner's high.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and same thing with, um, weightlifters show up because I think for them, I'm guessing I'm not a weightlifter, but it seems to me like they show up for the challenge of the technique and the PR based on the technique. Uh,
Sometimes.
I
Because I
mean,
would consider myself a weightlifter.
I'm talking the Olympic lifts.
Oh, no, that's not me.
I'm sorry. When I say weightlifting, I mean capital W.
Oh, you mean only
um,
lifts. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, not general lifting, not bodybuilding, not powerlifting, not strongman, but Olympic weightlifting.
Got it.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, those lifters I see showing up for that. The power lifters I see showing up because they just want to feel like They are going as hard as they can, and like you got to get them weights and just grip it and rip it,
Yep.
And strong men are just insane. I mean, hi.
I mean, it's good to find the right exercise for your personality. I mean, I'm not going to take a client of mine who just loves intensity and say,
Yeah.
okay, today we're just doing mobility work. They would fire me. You can't do that. That does
No.
not work. I mean, you can throw in mobility work because everybody needs a little bit,
Yeah.
depending, but not a whole session of it. They'd be like, all right, when are we getting onto the bar? Are you going to teach me to deadlift or whatever? I don't like, come on, you gotta meet people where they are, and like I'm not gonna have somebody go banging on a tire if they've got disc issues. But if they really
Right.
want to, we're gonna work on a way to get you as close to there as possible, or there if medically you can do it,
Yeah.
depending. But I mean, I'm not gonna just like, nope, we're only gonna do core strengthening work and blah blah. But you can't do that, you
Yeah.
know.
That's not the personality to do that with.
No,
Yogis are not the personality to toss into high intensity functional fitness. Like,
no, and you know what? I've had a couple of online clients that have come to me, and we recently parted ways, and it's not anything that I've done, or
yeah.
anything like that. It's just they came to me more of like a specific thing of, hey, I'm in pain. It's affecting my playing. I can't play anymore, or I'm afraid I won't be able to play anymore.
Yeah.
And yeah, they had, or some people I'm thinking about specifically are hypermobile and they had no strength in their joints. And they basically just go for walks and stuff, which is great. I mean, they're in a place where they can go hike and they love it, which is awesome. It's not that they weren't fit. They're totally fit and they are happy with their bodies. It wasn't about how they looked. So like there's fitness for every different person, but they came to me because they're like, look, I'm worried this is affecting my playing. I'm worried
Mm.
it's going to get worse and I don't want to lose my career over this. And
Yeah.
so we got them to a point,
Yeah.
or I got them to a point, let me rephrase this. We got to a point where they felt like, okay, all my pain is gone or mostly gone. I can keep this up. I love this, but I don't like the strength training. But I like this corrective stuff. And I'm going to go back to hiking. I'm like,
Okay.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's
Have at it.
okay. The
Have
rest
at
of
it.
what I do is not for everyone. That's fine. If I just get you out of pain and teach you some stuff and you send you on your way with some tools, awesome. If you find like what we do and you love it and you want to keep going and that is your jam and you didn't know it, even more awesome. But it's
Right.
it's it's okay to have a little bit and try some and find what works and then move on and keep this and keep that. It's a learning process and it's fine.
Absolutely. Absolutely is. And much in that same way with it's like we'll shift we'll shift people around at the gym in our classes
Mhm.
or in our one-on-ones if it's like, you know what, this person is not ready for this type of coaching, or this person is, they need this sort of approach instead, or yeah, like we'll shift people. And there's not, it's, I'm not going to say that you can't get anything out of one particular coach or another, even within the same gym. But I really think that, I mean, we all learn from each other for the most part, right? So,
Right?
um, so it's okay to uh, spend some time doing different things with different coaches, the same way that for, I mean, musicians, it's normal practice. You have your primary teacher, but you should be taking with other instructors,
Absolutely.
at least on some sort of base, like not all the time, because it's gonna, your teacher usually has a plan, like we're gonna do this, and that's gonna get us here, and it's gonna get us, um,
But then you go to a master class, and then you go to a
right,
convention, and
right,
then you go to a blah, 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 right?
exactly. And you take the little nuggets from that to use it to help where you're already working towards or what you actually want.
Right.
Um, I've actually seen some people take from multiple teachers at the same time. That's always a disaster. Full time from two.
Oh no. I taught one kid who was taking lessons from me during the school day, and then she would go to my colleague and take a lesson from her at home every week. I'm like, why are you doing this?
Yeah.
Well, my mom wants me to. I'm like, what's her reasoning? Why? I mean, there's value in other opinions, but you need one teacher at a time.
Absolutely. Because we're going to hear
It was weird.
or see if we're coaching versus instructing instrument,
Yeah.
we're going to find different things that we are going to triage, right? Because there's always somebody comes to you, they've got multiple issues. It's never just one. And as the coach or teacher, it's your job to triage what is most important, what can we build on, where do we need to start? And we're going to build off of that. That's always the plan. But if you've got somebody else who goes, well, I would start them here and we'd build using this instead of I want to start them here and build using that. Well, now you're trying to do two things at the same time. It just doesn't work.
Not gonna work.
No, it's super counterproductive, you know? Like I'm not gonna sit here and say, oh, you should only take from one teacher ever. No. No. There's a reason that if you're gonna go into it professional, you want to get degrees from different institutions for that reason, you know. But doing two things at once isn't helpful either. Try
Nope.
something, stick with it for a little bit, try something out, see if you're interested, make decisions based on that. You know?
Yep, and find what you like to do and
Yes.
take pleasure in doing that.
Yes.
Number one, you're more likely to stick with it. Two, you're more likely to build off of it into something you like even more. And there's nothing wrong with I don't care if it's walking the dog, going for hikes, meditating, doing yoga, doing hula hooping, rollerblading. My gosh, I said doing jump rope. I had one client who was like, you know what? I used to love jump roping. I think I want to jump rope. This lady's in her 60s. I was like, right on the suit. Why not? You know what? I mean, just go for it. There's nothing that says there is nothing that says that exercise has to be a certain way, and you or it doesn't count, or you're not getting any benefit, or you're wasting your time. You don't have to exercise lifting heavy weights for an hour 3 to 5 times a week.
Right.
I like it. There's benefit from it, but it might not benefit you, especially if you hate it. Or what I hear a lot of is, I spent 45 minutes on the elliptical and then 20 minutes on the stair climber, and then I did 10 minutes of abs. Why? What benefit are you seeing?
Yep.
Well, that's what I should do. Says who? How long do you stick with that? Do you hate it? Do you love it?
Yeah. Yeah. And we are going to unpack that big time next week.
Which segues into next week.
Yeah, yes, it does. We're going to unpack that big time. Why are you doing what you're doing? Are you successful at it? And I mean, at the point, I'd like to be able to get to this point next week. We'll see if it happens next week or the week after. But,
I got to go read the whole book now.
Yeah. But the difference between when you should do things that you don't like and for how long, because there is a point where we need to talk about that. But let's unpack that next time.
That might be another episode all by itself.
That might be another episode all by itself.
Might be short, but a minisode, so to speak.
You know, cool. All right. Do you have anything else to add on this subject? I feel like
Nope. I think we covered it all.
All right. Cool beans. Plugs. You can find me Facebook and Instagram at Tuned and Toned Performance. That's tuned with a D and toned with a D. Website is tunedandtonedperformance.com. YouTube, type in Tuned and Toned Performance. I come right up. If you are local to Tallahassee, I am offering group classes out of Big Bend Strength and Conditioning. Regardless of if you're in Tallahassee or if you are remote, I do offer in-person and online one-on-one sessions, movement assessments, and nutrition coaching as well. And custom programming. So like if you're not wanting the one-on-one all the time, but you want something to do, we got you covered. All right, what you got?
Yep, so you can find me at Facebook at Music Strong, at website musicstrong.com. You can find me on Instagram at Music Strong Fitness. And I've got the same thing basically where I could do online, thinking rollerblading, doing remote or online coaching. I've got downloadable instrument specific workouts on my website. I do in-person coaching, in-home coaching in Nashville, Tennessee. I've got a hybrid model of that, and I'm still working on a new version of the COVID Comeback Challenge, and the 12-week is going to be a partnership with Hypervolt. So if you like their massage guns, join and you get one for free. Plus you get their free app, which is all about recovery, and it tells you how to use it, what to do, and it's there's that, and I've got another coaching program coming up. It's a group coaching program called Fitness, because I can't think of what else musicians want except general to be fit. I think I'm going to call it fitness for musicians. Generic, yes, but that's the point, I guess. Mm-hmm. More information coming out about that soon, but comment if you want some info. You can also just email me at angela@musicstrong.com, and we will have a conversation. Love to have you join me on that.
All right, y'all. If you've got any questions, drop them in the comments, reach out to one of us on websites or social medias. And if you've got anything that you would like us to talk about in our podcast, please feel free to drop that.
Yeah, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the like button and share with somebody you like, and then drop us a comment on your favorite workout.
Absolutely. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us. See you next time.